Have you ever found yourself playing the same lines over and over and you get tired of improvising and you get tired of soloing and you think, what the heck is going on? Why can't I do this? This is something that pretty much every intermediate guitarist has faced, myself included, back when I was putting together my playing. And I wanted to share something that I stole from a book that is a fantastic method to get into playing more interesting lines and really building up your chops so that you can improvise over chord progressions while they're moving, and so that you don't have to get bored and tired of the things that you're playing. And it also gives you a perfect avenue to take the things that you're practicing in isolation and actually bring them into your playing. So this method was taken from a book called Supercharge by the fantastic jazz guitarist Howard Roberts. Now, if you aren't familiar with Howard's playing and you like jazz, I highly recommend checking it out. If you want to go deeper into this, I highly recommend the book, but I must say that the book is pretty specifically catered towards jazz guitarists. However, jazz guitar training is some of the best training you could do in terms of improvisation, so if you feel like taking the full plunge, I'd highly recommend trying to pick up a copy of the book or surfing the web for a PDF online. They are out there. Now, this method, basically what we have to do is we take a chord progression, and I would recommend choosing a chord progression a week to do this, because this is an exercise that you really will benefit from going deep in something rather than just, skimming the surface and hoping for the best. So what we're going to do in today's video, I'm going to show you how to apply this over 2 common chord progressions and explain the thought process behind it and how you can start incorporating this into your own practice. So the basis of the super chops method is that you want to play slow. Now, this isn't the sexiest and most fun thing in the world, but you want to play slow, and the other rule is you have to play consistent eighth notes. That means no phrasing, that means no long dramatic bends or anything like that. The goal is that you are just a machine churning out eighth notes. Now, the point of this is that A, it gets you to have all of your interest in the line be coming from the actual content of the line rather than relying on cool repeated rhythms or anything like that, because we're really looking at expanding the colors and the flavors that are available to us. So those are the hard and fast rules, is that you have to play constant eighth notes. Now, to put this in context, let's use just a simple 1-4-5 progression in the key of C major. So those would be C, F, and G. Now what I'm going to do is, at a really slow tempo, I'm going to record a little backing track, or loop in this case, I guess, just so that you can kind of feel what that would sound like. You can also do this just with a metronome, but at least when you're getting into this, it might be helpful to have some kind of harmonic backing track to make sure that you're accountable and you're doing exactly what you think you're doing. So I'm going to lay down a super simple 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And with that was 2 bars of C major, 1 bar of F, and 1 bar of G. Now what I'm going to do over this is, for the bars of C major, I'm just going to play eighth notes of the C major scale, or if I wanted to be fancy, and if this makes sense to you, you could apply modes to it. I could play notes from C Lydian as well, because that matches the scale in chord scale theory. Over F, I'm going to do the same thing. I could play notes from the F major scale, or I can play notes from the F Lydian scale. Sorry, had a little brain fog there. And then over G, I want to play notes from G Mixolydian, because this is the 5 chord. So I want to play G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, the easiest way to start doing this is to just vomit the scales in one position. So for example, if I was in C major, then I would just play notes of C major, and I'm playing from the root. When it goes to F major, I'm going to play F major from the root. And when it goes to G Mixolydian, I'm going to play G Mixolydian from the root. And I'm going to play constant eighth notes. You're not allowed to stop. So this is what that would sound like. Let me, get the feel of the chord progression back in my head. F, and I'll turn up so that you can actually hear it. Here we go. Now, once you get comfortable with this, you're gonna get bored of just playing constant scales. So the next step would be to start adding variance to your lines and changing directions so that you get into it. So we would go. I hit a bum note. And again, the goal, I would stay in just one position at first. But the trick to doing this is that you try to sustain this as long as you can. Usually when I'm doing this exercise, I try to do it in 10-minute chunks. So I just play over one chord progression, or if I'm working on a jazz standard, I play over that 32 bar, usually, progression for 10 minutes. Then I take a little break and I stretch, and then I do it again in a different position. And what I would do when you're first getting into this is I would really try to stay within 5 or 6 frets, and then after 10 minutes, check out the next 5 or 6 frets, and then keep going up. And then once you've worked on this a couple of days, then you can take off the reins and just see wherever else it is. And the great thing about doing this exercise is, again, the goal is to do it slow enough that you have time to think about what you're doing, and you're only playing eighth notes. So again, the only bit of interest comes from your lines. The other fantastic thing about this exercise is that as you get more comfortable and as you start getting bored of what you're playing, it's going to get boring, right? So what I would do is I would then start thinking, okay, what other kind of melodic stuff can I throw in? How well do I know my C major 7 or just even C major triad arpeggios, F major arpeggios, and G mixolydian arpeggios? How well do I know those? And then you can start throwing those in and mixing them with your scales. And again, your only goal is to play as specific to the chords as possible while also playing every single eighth note in the bar. So you're filling it so that there's no space for you to cheat out with rhythms or have other things be adding interest. We're just trying to improve our chops for playing melodically over things. So let me play you a little bit more sophisticated of an example here. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go, 3, 4. And there I actually cheated, I threw in a trill. But again, as you get bored of things, you can slowly start to throw in triplets, whatever you may like. But it's really important at first that you restrict yourself to just eighth notes when you're doing this, because you're trying to find cool little things to break up your scales. Because this is one thing that I see with a lot of my students, is we spend so much time practicing scales and arpeggios just going in perfect order and breaking them up and finding little things like, what if I went as a little phrase rather than just going. So you can pull out all of these really, really interesting things. And again, the trick is to start super slow. So a great place I find for most people to start is anywhere from 60 to 80 beats per minute. And then you can start increasing your speed daily by, say, 5 to 10 minutes, or 5 to 10 beats per minute. If you are going to follow the program that's set out in the book specifically, it's over 20 weeks and you use one chord progression a week, and you're exploring the arpeggios and the scales over it, and you're trying to just play constant eighth notes so that the only interest from your playing comes from the content of the line rather than the rhythms or the fancy legato run that you do. And so if you wanted to follow that exactly, you would do one chord progression per week and you fully explore it, then you bring in a new chord progression. And the great news is you can always go back. But just to reiterate why this exercise is so useful, it's because it forces your brain to get comfortable with thinking ahead to the next chord change. It forces your brain to get comfortable switching between different scales and modes over chords, which is one of the hardest things to do. And it also is going to help you improve your improvising when you actually go to do it without any restrictions, because you will have practiced and explored different sounds that you can find. So this is a great way to tune up all of your kind of soloing facilities and everything like that. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. It truly helps out small creators like me more than you could know. If you have any questions about what I covered in this, you can of course leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you. If you're looking to have a guitar lesson with me, there's a link to get in touch with me down in the description there. I'd absolutely love to work with you on whatever's troubling you on the guitar. If you wanted to support me in the free educational content that I put out here every single week, you can subscribe to my Patreon, which is also linked down below. All of my patrons get early access to videos, as well as cool behind-the-scenes sneak peeks at music that I'm writing, music that I'm working on, and a whole bunch of fun stuff like that. If you're looking for a different way to support the channel, you could purchase my ebook or my video course. They're also linked down below in my store there. These are both fantastic options for you if you're looking to support the channel while also getting some great educational content that's a little bit more in-depth and involved than what I can offer in a 10 to 15 minute YouTube video. And last but not least, I have new videos coming out every week, every Monday and every Thursday. So I'd love to see you in the next one. And until I do, I'll wish you a wonderful day and I hope you have some fun playing the guitar. Thank you.